It was he who superintended the building of boats and the making of arms, accoutrements, scientific apparatus, and all equipment, and, what was of more importance, he selected the men who were to form his command. That was a nice matter. It would have been worse than useless to lead a company of fretful dissenters. The expedition was to be conducted on a military basis, but it was not ordinary field service. It was a mission for picked men. Much would depend upon each man's natural aptitude for his task. Much more would depend upon the integrity of the corps as a whole. The consummate wisdom of Lewis's selection of his aides shines from every page of the journals. None of the men seemed to need instruction in the cardinal elements of conduct. Each was as sensible of his trust as Lewis himself. It was in this spirit of the subordinates, rather than the absolute authority of the captain, that success was to lie. To guard against untoward accident that might thwart the work, Lewis wished to have a companion in command. This pleased Mr. Jefferson, and the choice fell upon Captain William Clark. William Clark was the ninth of a family of 10 children. His father was John Clark, second, who, like his father before him, was a Virginian, living in King and Queen County. The pioneering spirit was strong in the family, the wanderlust that keeps man's nature fluid and adaptable. This led John, second, to remove first to Albemarle County, and later to Caroline County, where William was born on August 1st, 1770, not far from the birthplace of Meriwether Lewis. When the boy was about 14 years of age, the family moved once more into the dim West, settling at the place now known as Louisville, in Kentucky. William's elder brother, George Rogers Clark, had preceded the others, and had built the first fortification against the Indians at the Falls of the Ohio, around which were clustered a few of the rude dwellings of the frontiersmen. At this place, amidst the crudest conditions of the Kentucky border, the lad grew to maturity. That was not an orderly life, it was rather a continuing state of suspense, demanding of those who shared in it constant hardihood and fortitude. For the right-minded man, however, it had incalculable value. Many of the strongest examples of our national character have been men who owed the best that was in them to the apparently unkindly circumstances of their youth. What was denied to Clark in easy opportunity had ample compensation in the firmness and self-reliance which came from mastering difficulties. To read Clark's letters and papers is to discover that his education in the politer branches of learning was as primitive as the surroundings of his home. It is plain that the training which prepared him for manhood was got mostly outside the schoolroom. Like Lewis, he chose a military career. When he was but 18 years of age, he was appointed ensign in the regular army, and 2 years later he was made captain of militia in the town of Clarksville, in the territory of the United States north-west of the Ohio River. In 1791 he was commissioned as a lieutenant of infantry, under Wayne, and served afterward as adjutant and quartermaster. Ill health led him to resign his commission in the army in 1796. A few months before his resignation he first became acquainted with Meriwether Lewis, who, as an ensign, was put under his command. Then began one of those generous and enduring friendships that are all too rare amongst men. It is not known just what their private relations were in the meantime, but in 1803, upon Lewis's earnest solicitation, Captain Clark consented to quit his retirement upon his Kentucky farm, and join in that work which was destined to be but the beginning of his real usefulness. He comes to us out of the dark. We must forego intimate knowledge of his growth, being content with finding him full grown and ready. No doubt his service in the army, where he was associated with men of ability, had helped him to master many details of engineering craft, which he was to use in his later service. But this was at most incidental. His strength, his power to serve, was native, not acquired. That they might share alike in all particulars of rank and responsibility in the expedition, it was understood that Lewis would endeavor to procure for Clark a captain's commission. Clark wrote to Nicholas Biddle, the editor of the journals, in 1811: "On these conditions I agreed to undertake the expedition, made my arrangements, and set out, and proceeded on with Captain Lewis to the mouth of the Missouri, where we remained the winter 1803, made every necessary arrangement to set out early in spring 1804. Everything arranged, I waited with some anxiety for the commission which I had reason to expect, Captain of Engineers. A few days before I set out I received a commission of second lieutenant of artillerist. My feelings on this occasion was as might be expected. I wished the expedition success, and from the assurance of Captain Lewis that in every respect my situation command, etc., etc., should be equal to his, viewing the commission as merely calculated to authorize punishment to the soldiers, if necessary, I proceeded. No difficulty took place on our route relative to this point. In the very nature of things, personal difficulty of a petty sort could not arise. Official rank was as nothing between them. They were capable and loyal. The morale of their party was ideal, and under their guidance was wrought out what has been well called our national epic of exploration. End of chapter 1. Recording by Roger Moline.